Today we're going to talk about diversity. Schools today are filled with many diverse students, whether it be in their elementaries, their junior highs, or their high schools. Student diversity can affect how students learn the material in the course, whether it be a positive influence on them or a negative influence. As teachers, we need to be able to identify these diversities so we can help our students learn the material the way they need to learn it, and so we can maximize their performance. There are many types of diversities in schools that we could look at, but we're only going to be discussing 5 of them today. We're going to talk about race, physical appearance, language, students with disabilities, and then gifted learners. The first type of diversity we're going to talk about today is race. Race can cause students to have difficulty learning, not because a certain race are smarter than others, but because it can divide a classroom due to stereotyping and grouping. It can also cause students to get singled out. For instance, if you have a classroom full of all white children and then you get one Hispanic kid in there, they might not be accepting to him, especially if he's a new student, or vice versa. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you're still singling a student out based on how they look or where they're from, what their background is. Another way race can be a factor is also language, but we'll go over that in the next section. One thing we can do as teachers is we need to not get caught up in the stereotyping that the students do. Some students might stereotype a certain student as smart or not smart, or they don't learn as well. We need to not get caught up in that because we need to give every student an equal opportunity to learn. Another thing we need to do is we need to help unify the students, help them see past the stereotypes, help them see past people's ethnic backgrounds and everything, and help get them together as a group and a whole so they can learn together. The second type of diversity that we're going to talk about today is physical appearance. There's a lot of different types of physical appearances, like athletes or what students wear, who's popular, who's unpopular, whether it be males or females, and then of course the different types of social cliques that everyone in high school or junior high or even elementary are going to join, and a lot of that's based on their physical appearance. One thing that they're going to do is they're going to group. You might not have a bunch of the smart kids sitting there wanting to sit with all the athletes, or you're not going to have the unpopular kids sitting with the popular kids. They're going to stereotype against each other. They might think that an athlete's stupid because he's an athlete, or just because this person is a girl, she might be really smart. We need to prevent the kids from grouping and stereotyping like that, because it's not going to allow them to learn. If we were to put them in a group project or some type of group atmosphere with them, it might affect how they learn, because they don't want to be in a group with that person. They might have a bad attitude about it. One thing we also need to do as teachers is we need to not stereotype ourselves. We might have a classroom with 10 athletes in it and just kind of blow it off because we don't think they're smart, or we don't think they're willing to learn the material. They're just there to have fun and play whatever sport they're doing. They're not going to try hard at their schoolwork. Or even with the gender, we might see a female who we think, oh, she's a female, she's going to work hard, she's smart, we're going to give her special privileges and special attention, whereas, with a male or something, we might not. We might think that they're dumb, or they're not willing to work as hard, they're just there to have fun and goof off. So we need to make sure that we don't get caught into the stereotype that our students will, and we need to not let that diversify our students. We need to bring them together as a whole. The third type of diversity that we're going to talk about today is language. This is primarily students who are not fluent in English or don't even speak English at all. This is becoming more and more common today, especially here in Texas with all the immigration coming over from Mexico. In order for us to help these students learn a little better, since they're not as fluent in English, we as teachers need to teach at a slower rate. We need to slow down our lesson plan, but not too much to where it affects the learning of our other students, but just slow enough to where they can comprehend what we're saying a little better and understand the material better. We can also go around and when we're allowing them to work on homework or do whatever in their free time, we can go around to their desk and make sure that they're understanding it and give them some extra tutoring help as well. Now, if there's a student that doesn't speak any English and we're not fluent in their language, we need to make sure that our school board knows so that they can provide a bilingual teacher for the classroom to help translate what we're saying and help these students with their questions that they might have on a lesson. The fourth type of diversity we're going to talk about today is students with disabilities. This can include students that are mentally challenged, students with forms of a dyslexia, color blindness, just any type of disability that's going to prohibit them from learning at the same rate as our other students. As teachers, we need to find out and be able to identify these types of disabilities early on so that we can give them the appropriate help that they need. One thing we can do is we can teach slower to them, let them kind of learn the material at their own rate. We can offer them extra help on their homework. Another thing we need to do is we need to encourage them when they do things well, because if they have a disability, they could have low self-esteem because of it or be embarrassed about it. So when they do something well, we need to make sure that we encourage them and let them know that they are doing well. If we have a student that's got a severe disability, we need to talk to our school board and see if we can get some type of a special education teacher in there who's specially trained and qualified to be able to work with those students. The last type of diversity that we're going to discuss today are gifted learners. These are students who are going to excel at learning. They're going to be our smarter kids. They're going to learn at a faster rate than our other students. We need to try and identify these students early on because we need to be able to challenge them. If they're not getting challenged and they're just doing the same work as the other students, they might get bored with it, they might get disinterested. If they do that, their grades may suffer, they may even fail the course. So we need to identify this early on so that we can challenge them. Maybe give them harder homework assignments or give them extra work, let them work ahead in the book. Maybe find some advanced problems for them to work through or advanced questions for them to work through. We just make sure that we challenge them and get them thinking on the level that they need to be thinking on. Today we have discussed a few types of diversities that we may see in our classroom. As teachers, we need to be prepared to see these different diversities because we most likely will see them and we need to be ready for them when they do arise. The main thing we need to do is we need to be able to identify these diversities so that we know how to approach them, we know how to help the students. Especially, if we have a student who's not fluent in English or a student with some type of disability, we need to be aware of these so that we can give them the proper teaching that they need so that they can learn and maximize their performance in the classroom. We also need to be aware of, races and physical appearance, those types of diversities, because we need to be able to prevent our students from grouping and stereotyping